Nigeria's Vice President Yemi Osinbajo is on a 3-day visit to Pretoria, South Africa, where he is expected to commission the consular building of Nigeria High Commission in Pretoria. Nigeria's #2 citizen will also hold an interactive session with the Nigerian community in South Africa before returning to Abuja on Sunday. Our South African correspondent, Betty Dibia, was at the Waterkloof Air Base in Pretoria when he arrived in our reports.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, arrived at about 8 o'clock local time for what was originally planned to be a religious program. But his program has somewhat been expanded to include some semi-official items, which include meeting the Deputy President of South Africa, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, as well as meeting the Nigerian community on Saturday.
We have a sizable number of Nigerian community for him to meet with them, interact with them, essentially to tell them what the government is doing, take on questions, and then provide some answers to erase some negative perceptions, and then situate the Nigerian community on government program so that they will have a feel of government and remain part of government, albeit in diaspora.
Of course, we'll keep you updated on the outcome of that town hall meeting with the Nigerian community. On Sunday, he's expected to address a religious conference also around Johannesburg. From the Waterkloof Air Force Base in Pretoria, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
For a job well done, 4 Tunisian mediators have been awarded a Nobel Peace Prize for helping the country transition to democracy. The Nobel Committee said the quartet had made a decisive contribution to democracy after the 2011 revolution by helping to establish a political process when Tunisia was on the brink of civil war. Tunisia's uprising was the first and most successful of the Arab Spring, while other countries like Libya, Egypt, Yemen, and Syria either reverted to authoritarian rule or descended into violence and chaos. Only Tunisia has managed a successful transition to democracy. The quartet is credited with creating a national dialogue between the country's Islamist and secular coalition parties amid deepening political and economic crisis in 2013. Tunisia's revolution, also known as the Yasmin Revolution, began in late 2010 and led to the ousting of President Zine El Abidine Ben Ali in January 2011, followed by the country's first free democratic elections just last year. The first set of beneficiaries of the EU relocation plan have arrived in Sweden. Italy sent a first group of Eritrean asylum seekers to the country on Friday as part of a European Union relocation plan aimed at easing the burden on border states amid the continent's biggest migration crisis since World War II. The 19 men and women who made a perilous journey across the desert and the sea to seek shelter in Europe lined up on the runway of Rome's Campino Airport, wearing lightweight jackets, smiling and taking selfies before boarding a plane. European Migration Commissioner and Italian Interior Minister escorted them to the aircraft, taking them to an airport near the Arctic Circle, where temperatures dipped below freezing overnight. Now, more than 500,000 people have poured into Europe this year, fleeing war and poverty in the Middle East, Asia and Africa, prompting bitter disputes between member states about how to react and how to share out the responsibilities. Resolving Libya's political crisis could take longer than is estimated, as Tripoli's self-declared rulers and hardliners oppose a proposed national unity government by the United Nations envoy to the country. Libya is caught up in a war between the internationally recognized government and its elected parliament and an unofficial government controlling Tripoli. Each side is backed by rival alliances of armed factions. 4 years after the fall of Muammar Gaddafi, Western powers are pushing for both sides to accept the UN accord, fearing violence has allowed Islamist militants to gain ground and illegal migrant smugglers to take advantage of the chaos. Libya's recognized government has operated out of the east of the country since last year, when an armed faction called Libya Dawn took over Tripoli, set up its own government and reinstated a former parliament known as the GNC.